Good morning. We're here with another episode of A Cup of Joe with Joe. Joe's got his apples, and I have my cup of Joe here. It's a coffee monster. And this art was actually done by a friend of ours named Ron Kirkland. So, little plug there for some coffee mugs. All right, so today we have a very serious subject to talk about. We're talking about improper repairs. So, in reptile rehabilitation, we are starting to see more and more of this happening where people are using epoxies or screws, fiberglass, all sorts of different things to cover over the shells of injured turtles and tortoises. And it's not good. It's not good at all. So we felt really strongly about this. We feel like we need to deliver this message not just to the public, but also other wildlife rehabilitators, veterinarians, and we're going to go ahead and tell you why this is not a good idea. I am going to warn you, I am going to bring up, while I'm talking, a few different pictures that could be slightly graphic, because we're just trying to show you exactly what happens to these animals. So to get started, you enjoying your apples, Joe? We're going to bring out a few physical examples of improper repairs that have actually been on some animals, okay? This is one here. I'm not quite sure even what some of these things are. This one looks more like maybe a clay along with some kind of mesh or screening like you would use on your porch. And this, and I'm going to go ahead and flip to the picture right now. This was actually placed over the top of a open wounded fracture that was not even stable. It was all over the place, and as you can see, the blood was seeping out into this injury. So at that point, you can also see where infection and other stuff is going on underneath there. It's not getting air. So these animals, although they seem okay at first, over time, especially being a reptile and cold-blooded, it takes them longer to show signs of infection. So a lot of times people put these on them, and a few weeks later they're like, hey, they're looking good, they're eating, they're swimming, or they're walking, it's not a big deal, and they put them out back into the wild. And then up to a year later, they're dead. They've got septicemia and severe infections, and it's a horrible, horrible death. You do not want to do this. So that's one example there. This animal, just to let you know, did actually survive. We caught it in time. We were able to remove it and put the animal on antibiotics and do proper repairs that are non-invasive, and that tortoise was released. This is another one. Sadly, this tortoise did not make it. We nicknamed him Pat, but someone used some wire mesh in this one. Now I'm going to flip to the picture again. You see here that there is actually oozing from it, maggots, and fly larvae. And so basically it's just nastiness building up underneath this patch. And from there, we went ahead and removed the patch off of the animal, started him on antibiotics. But unfortunately, this tortoise would have survived if this was not done. Even though that injury looks nasty, it is something we could have treated as an open wound, and that tortoise would have been returned to the wild. But unfortunately, the infection poor thing was too far gone. And here's another example. This one was actually on an aquatic slider, and it was on there for so long that it covered the whole shell. But these are the keratin layers, and some of these actually will naturally slough off. So unfortunately, being on the turtle, it did not allow the proper sloughing. And so all of these were all underneath, and it was just, I can smell it thinking about it. It was horrid. Because you can think about the water and everything else that this animal had been in. Who knows how long this was on him. But we were able to remove this off of the turtle, and the turtle is doing great, thankfully. And but this is just another example of what we should not be doing. Okay. And then here's some fiberglass pieces. This one is actually from a recent one that just came in. And these are chunks of the fiberglass that were put over an injury that didn't need it at all. It was actually a compression fracture, and with some time and antibiotics would have healed fine on its own. So thankfully this tortoise is also doing well. We caught it soon enough. And then, of course, we also have, I'm going to flip to another picture. This is an example of severe septicemia, and this happened after fiberglass screws and wire were used on a tortoise, and then the tortoise was released back to the wild. This animal was found lethargic, hardly responsive in a parking lot. So this is a real severe case. This is what ends up happening in the end and what we're trying to prevent through education, okay? So please, number one, do not try to do these things yourself at home, okay? A lot of this is old school. To remember that their shells are made of bone. Bone is living tissue. They're just like our bones, and it gives it the ability to also heal. So we do not want to trap infection, and we don't want to make things worse for these animals for sure. So that's two. And always look out for, wildlife rehabilitator. If you are someone who is a rehabilitator, or you're a veterinarian and you're watching this, or friends with a veterinarian, please share these things. There is a lot of new, more innovative ways that are non-invasive that help these animals. And if you need any questions, or you have any questions, want some help or suggestions, please email us or visit our website and get in contact with us, because we can share that information with veterinarians and wildlife rehabilitators all over the world with the newer techniques that are much safer and help get these animals back out to the wild where they need to be. And I will say, in some situations, if you have a domestic situation and the veterinarian is doing different things in a controlled pet environment where the animal is not being released out to the wild, some of those can be different. But we're talking about putting these animals out there with these improper repairs to just die, up to a year later, and we don't want to do that. So Joe has finished his apples. He is leaving the building, so I guess this is where we're going to go ahead and just cut it and end this another episode of A Cup of Joe with Joe. Again, swampproadventures.org. And, quick plug. See these t-shirts? You like these t-shirts? Okay, so we do have, we have these shirts on our website, or a link to our store, and we do have these shirts as well as some other stuff. All of the money collected from these sales goes back into saving wildlife, especially our reptiles, because that's what we specialize in. Go reptiles and amphibians, okay? All right, Joe, where are you going? I don't know. All right, so till next time, that's A Cup of Joe with Joe.